Welcome to The Other Side of the Bridge with Iron City Paranormal, where they discuss real investigations, first-hand experiences, unexplained moments, and everything that happens when you step off the regular path and onto the other side of the bridge. Just honest paranormal talk, Iron City Paranormal style. And now, here are your hosts, Derrick Smith and Dan Metelsky.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first ever episode of The Other Side of the Bridge with Iron City Paranormal. Derrick, we have talked about doing this for years.
Yeah, forever. I mean, we've just been dragging our feet with this. I don't know why. I mean, we've been joining podcasts. We've been talking to everybody and anybody that'll have us. I don't know why we've waited so long, but thanks to Margie and you in UNX Media for really pushing us here, giving us the jump off.
Yeah. I mean, without her kind of kicking the pants, I don't know where we'd be. So, we are Iron City Paranormal, hailing from, the Iron City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Derrick, we've been investigating almost 10 years now. It's amazing how time flies.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it all started. So, I mean, this was never really our intent to take it as far as we have. You know, we started just because we wanted to. We've loved this side of things for so long, and I mean, this is one of your favorites, Dan. I mean, you can take it away how we started. I mean, this is your this is kind of your doing if you really think about it.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I was the world's greatest best man at a wedding, right? I mean, I was kind of given very strict rules. No gentlemen's clubs, no bars for your bachelor party. So what do you do, right? Derrick and I,
creative.
Yeah, we're just weird enough that ghost hunting seemed to be really the only option, right? So
I mean, you think about it, we loved everything horror before this. It was whether it was movies or just stories or going to these places just to see it. I mean, how many times did we walk past that cemetery by your house when we were younger growing up just because, it's always been something.
We did, but I was always too afraid, right? I mean,
right.
you were always the one in the horror movies that go in first and
what do you mean were? I still am.
Pay the price. You still are. That's right. So yeah, I mean, to think that it started where it did, and has gotten us to where it has, I mean, I think that's a testament to, not only how weird we can be, right? But I think it also says a lot for, really the paranormal community in general, because that's really what pulled us in and held us for as long as it has.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely something to be said about the people and the places that we've come across. I mean, these one side of it that we always talk about and we say that really draws us in is the history behind these places, right? It takes special people behind some of these historical societies to really keep them going. Their passion for it, their drive for it, and that really, that adds to our fire, our passion for this. And I think it all kind of ties together in the long run. I mean, just from the get-go, we see a place that's interesting, and we dive in with the research side of things, and it's like, wait a second, did you hear about this place? Did you see this happened here? And it all just kind of spirals, and then it comes together in like that, and it's kind of incredible seeing all the pieces, all the background, all the people that make these things happen. But then to step foot on these properties, right? That's like a whole different side of it.
Oh yeah, there's something to be said for how an investigation feels and how a location feels. Right. And that is something that, we're going to get into more later in this episode when we start talking about, how we go about investigating. But I know that, the feeling and the vibe, so to speak, of the locations themselves really have caused us to change the way we do things. And I think that, we are a testament to maybe not, maybe always the expensive equipment that you can buy online isn't always the best get, right? I mean, it's not really the true way to do things at times.
Well,
Um,
we've certainly taken that roller coaster ride. I mean, we started with nothing. We started with borrowing people's equipment, or buying the cheap camera, or just like the old recorder, and then it took off, right? Like we dove into this head first, and we went full into it with the money. It was like, no cost was too much,
much
which
to
was
our wives' chagrin, right? I mean, we don't
but
like to admit how much money we spent doing this at times, I suppose.
like you've said, we've learned as and grown as we do this, and we were able to kind of. It took a while for you to tune into some of your otherworldly abilities. I don't know how else you want to put that, but it took some pushing from everyone around you, really, all of these places, for you to really start opening up your other senses too. Um,
Well,
when that
it
happened, it
has.
started to
It
change
has.
everything in the way that we've seen and done things. We started to pull away from the equipment, from staring at cameras, and to really truly be all in these locations. Head to toe, we're committed. As soon as we step foot in there, and it doesn't have to be through a video camera.
Sure.
Just being there, like you said, like the vibe of the place.
Yeah. And I think that that's, to get into what this show is going to be structured on, right? I mean, that at the end of the day, what's going to keep people coming back, right? Really what we're going to be getting into on this show is not only who we are as individuals. We're going to be having the remainder of our team on. There's 4 of us on this team. Now, we started with 11 at your bachelor party. That got down to 2 of us. And then, we've recently brought on a third and a fourth person, Aaron and Sabrina, each of them adding their own special abilities and their own talents, and, bringing a unique set of eyes to things, which is, really making us stronger as a group. So we're going to talk about investigations, of course. We're going to get into the haunted history of locations. As Derrick, you alluded to a little bit earlier, we dig deep on the history before we go in and investigate, right?
But we also don't, share that wholeheartedly with everybody, because there is something to be said with going in. I don't want to say completely blind, but someone like Sabrina, someone like Aaron, who do rely more on their senses than equipment. They don't want to know as much. They But it's good for someone like me, who's not relying on my senses as much as everybody else, to have something kind of in my back pocket to be able to guide and say, you know what, you're on to something. Let's keep digging here, or let's focus on this area and see what you feel and see where we can go from here. But at the same time, there's not always history. I mean, we literally just did a private residence that there's nothing on,
Mhm.
and that has been one of the, at least for me in recent memory, one of the most hard hitting personal kind of things, from that standpoint, we weren't expecting, just to tease that one a little bit. But
Yeah.
there's it's everything, and like Dan was saying, we're gonna be doing everything. We could spend hours upon hours talking about our evidence, talking about the history behind these places. And I think, I've been told that, that others can kind of see and sense the passion that comes from off of us, from what we do, and we're just hoping to share that with anybody that's willing to listen or watch, or anything. And we do have some pretty cool things as far as evidence goes, some really cool stories. But at the end of the day, what keeps making us come back is, what's out there. What are we getting into? What's on the other side of things, over that bridge, as it were.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's exactly why we named the show as we have, right? I mean, the other side of the bridge has multiple meanings for us, right? I mean, obviously there's the Pittsburgh tie, right? I mean, there's no getting around that, right? The land
How
of
many
bridges.
bridges do we have?
We have more bridges in Pittsburgh than Venice, Italy, I believe. So there's a whole bunch of them, right? So there's the obvious things, right? But then there's also the obviously the paranormal side, that bridge between worlds, that, venturing across that bridge to see what else is there, all of that. But at the end of the day, You know, I consider myself, and I know Derek, you do as well. You know, we're skeptical believers, right?
Yeah, I love
This,
when you coined that term, because that's
yeah,
exactly it. You know,
yeah, that was
you got to go in with like a certain perspective, right? And that's the most unique perspective that we could come up with.
yeah, and I think the way that, you know, has played to our hand the best over the years, you know, we spend just as much time, if not more time, during an investigation figuring out what it's not.
That's right.
Right, or not figuring out what it's not, but trying to come up with a reason other than it's a ghost or it's
Correct. Yeah,
paranormal.
we never
Right?
jump right into it, you know, and we have absolutely positively seen people that do that. You know, we've gone through members of our group, you know, we've that we had trusted, and then all of a sudden we realized that they're talking to God. Sorry.
Yeah.
So but anyway, when we go into it with this certain, you know, mindset, I think that it brings out the best in us, and it brings out the most from these investigations. You know, from the well-known spots where there are plenty of stories, and we're just trying to touch on some of those and experience those, and I don't know, end of the day, say, okay, yeah, you know, that does happen there. To the lesser known locations where absolutely nothing is documented except for, you know, the tattoo artist clients who come in and see shadows moving and hear footsteps, and then, you know, all of a sudden that's our go-to location. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
there's always you get so many different stories out of these things, but uh, you know, end of the day, we talk about the name of this, and you know, the other side of the bridge, you know, you and I have been friends since what, sixth grade, probably earlier than
No,
that,
well
right? I
before
mean,
that. Yeah, well before that.
uh, but point is, when we
Yeah.
started talking about the name, you know, it also hit on a chord because we grew up in the same community, really, right?
Hmm.
We grew up around Cranberry Township. And when I got married, I moved across the bridge, as they say. So this is
Yep.
just another tie-in to how meaningful something like this is, and you know, what this platform means to us is so much deeper than just, hey, let's talk about ghosts, you know.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what we want to pull in. You know, we want to pull others into our story. You know, we want to hear other people's stories to add into this, to fuel our fire, as it were.
Yeah, and we never want to bring them in with the approach of trying to convince them that ghosts are real, right? I mean, that's it. We don't know. You know, we take our equipment in, we go into a room, you know, we spend a lot of time sitting and just listening, and
Right.
we throw a lot of stuff at it. We get all this equipment, we do all of these fun things, you know, and at the end of the day, if something talks to us, I can't say that it's a ghost, you know.
But what we can say is it was unexplained.
Right. I mean, that's really where we can get it, right? And but what I find fascinating is as we pull out of, you know, these well-to-do locations with there's known paranormal activity at these, you know, big locations where we spend all of this money to go investigate at for a night. You know, one thing that we lack there is a little bit of the um ambiguity, you know, to what we're getting at times, right? Because it's there's some of those locations are most of the locations are so heavy on like this guy is in this cell block. You know, if you go in there and you sit down on this bench and you talk to this guy, John's gonna talk to you. You
Right.
know, and then whenever you get something from that person, you're just assuming it's John because that's what we were told, right? So what I'm finding fascinating and is I hate to say it, you know, sometimes I need a reminder to why we continue to do this, you know. Uh, I think that's normal. I think that's completely
Sure.
expected out of a decade old hobby of just going into a location with Derrick and sitting next to him in the dark, right? Um, I need something to remind me why we do it, right? But when we go to these locations that we've been going more recently, where they're private residences, where people have called us to, you know, utilize our 10 years of experience to try to essentially help them not be afraid of where they live anymore, like we just did last weekend, where, you know, we get something that comes across like a name, an event, a date, whatever it may be, that means nothing to us on the surface, right?
Right.
But then when we share that with the owner of the house and they're like, oh my, like that guy was my father's father. That was my grandfather that I never met. And that name that you just had was this person in my life or this thing in my life. You know, that's what brings me back to remind me why we do it. Right. I
Sure.
think
And
that's so
these
cool.
things kind of like they just come back up. There's
Yeah.
we could go on dry spells, where we're not getting much evidence, anything that like means much to us.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden we will start hitting on some of these things like how many EVPs we just talked about this. How many EVPs have we got just by sitting and listening recently, whereas in the past we would push and push and with all of our equipment and like beg these people to come talk to us.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden we're just like sitting there and listening, and then we're like, did you hear that? Where did that come from? What is that? And all of a sudden we're looking back and we're seeing some of the most incredible incredible evidence as far as EVP goes. And, we'll get into all those things. And those are all more evidence investigation based kind of things, as we go here. And, stick with us for those kinds of things, because we can spend hours upon hours digging into these things and sharing these things. And it doesn't happen often, but when places do ask us to come back and present your findings, it's happened a few times.
Mhm.
And we'll set up slideshows with some of the evidence and stuff, and we'll be standing up there, naturally me shaking and nervous, and Dan just going off and
Being me.
carrying the show as usual as the talent. And by the time we're like looking up at the screen and we're just talking, and we're enjoying talking about this and sharing everything that we find, even if it's nothing, even if it's our I smell a demon. It's something more. There's always something extra to these things that keeps drawing us back and pulling us in.
Yeah, so let's go into that. So we've been on many shows, right? We've been on a lot of podcasts.
Well, we have, but before we get into that, I just wanted to share a few of these old school pictures of some where we've been sort of moments here, and it's just who we are, right? Like these, I know we didn't cover these or talk about these. I love to pull up some of these old pictures of us. I was looking for some from the past, like back when we weren't even a team, we were just us standing in front of some of these old decrepit buildings, right? And just being there, being in it, and being a part of it, and it really shows how far we've come. I just wanted to share a moment. That's all.
Yeah, no. So what I wanted to talk about this I smell a demon, right? Because this is going to be something that you're going to hear quite often.
At least for us referencing.
Right, exactly. Like we will reference I smell a demon quite often. It is something that we've kind of coined, so to speak, amongst ourselves during an investigation, right? And we've had all of these podcasts ask us about it, right? So I smell a demon. If Derrick and I ever say like, I smell a demon, or we smelled a demon and we laugh to ourselves, it's definitely an inside joke. But what it is, after we do these investigations, Derrick is, primarily the person, if not the only person, that goes back through and sifts through the hours of audio, the hours of video evidence to, you know, piece together what happened on our devices and maybe we didn't hear at the time, right? So what we found when we first started was when things would happen that were biological, so to speak, like with our bodies, right? Like our stomach would gurgle, we would pass gas, we would do whatever, we would make gross body noises. When we first started, we never thought anything of it, right? It was just, who's going to care? You know, there's nobody else in this room besides Derrick.
Or I'm
But
covering this up. I don't want you to know that I'm smelling like
exactly, exactly. Like what we didn't realize was that our every movement and our every floor creak, if we would shift our weight a little bit on our feet, you know, that would change the way that the floor lays under our feet and might make a creaking noise. If our stomach gurgles, that is louder than what you think it is, right? And when you're running this
especially some of these recorders, these cameras with such touchy and high powered recording devices, you know, it gets everything, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times Derrick over the years has sent me audio files. Like at the very beginning of when we were investigating, he'd send me an audio file and he'd be like, dude, like, I think there's a growl in this basement footage. And I'm like, remembering that, like, I remember, like, based on the context clues of what the rest of the audio clip had in it that he sent me, I was like specifically remembering I farted during that time, you know, so then I'd be like, no, Derrick, you know, that isn't some revolutionary demon voice that we just captured. That was me just, you know, passing gas and trying to, you know, cover it up or whatever. So this I smell a demon actually came from necessity, right? We had to call it out so that we could get back to it later, and we knew that it wasn't something that was going to throw off our evidence review. So I thought that,
but it also very much tells you who we are.
It does.
As people.
It does. Right. I mean, we can be, you know, as boring and as stern and strict about, you know, investigating as we want to be. And we could be as serious about it. We take it very seriously, but we also have fun with it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a hobby.
I mean, and you have to. How many times have we told people, like, you know, we'll have people that'll come with us for their first time just because they've always been curious about it. What do we have to warn them? We have to always go into it and tell them it's not like the movies. You're going to be sitting there in the dark, in the silence, you know, possibly for hours. And if you don't realize what you're getting into, you're going to be like, what the hell am I doing here? You know, why am I doing this? And you have to realize it going into it that it comes up so often. Not to keep referencing the private residence that we just did, but it is the most current one because it keeps coming up. But we had to go into it telling them, look, it's not like the movies. It's not going to be like these exorcist shows. You're not going to have ectoplasm off the wall. You're not going to, it's 3 a.m. doesn't mean anything. You know, these demons aren't going to come out and hunt you. That's not how it works. You know, and we've done our research as far as documenting other people who have done this for much longer than we have, that have gone into it saying, look, 0.05% of these things that I've encountered over my 50 plus 60 plus years is actually a demon. You know, so it goes to show the very, very small percentage of something like that, but also how to avoid that side of things, you know, and to go into it with a grounded, realistic mindset. And I think that's what we do. Like you said, I mean, we could go into it all serious and stern and, you know, come speak to us. But at the end of the day, I think what speaks volumes is that we come into it more as just some guys that want to come in and sit on your living room and listen to your stories. You know, we want to talk to you. We want to see what you got to say, what other people don't want to hear. And we try to make it fun and interesting and entertaining. And, you know, we don't want to come in saying, talk to this red light, touch these devices. We do that, sure.
Sure.
But that's not all we do. We try to open ourselves up too.
Yeah, but we also don't provoke, right? And I think that's something that for us that has been something that's kept us safe.
Sure.
That from attachments, from something actually physically harming us, potentially spiritually harming us over the years, is we do it very respectfully, right? Like you said, I mean, when we go in, we're not the TV shows that rip their clothes off, not naming any specific names, but like, we're not going to rip our shirt off to show our tattoos to the spirit that doesn't like tattoos in life, right? Like, we don't go into a monastery where they're very stern, no tattoos on your human body, and just rip our shirts off and show them how many tattoos we have just to upset them to see if they would bite. Right. I mean,
Just
I think
because.
no, I think it's reckless, right? I think that's very
Sure.
reckless. And you hear, for lack of a better term, horror stories from people that do that kind of stuff, and then have these very real repercussions.
Sure. And that's actually a very good, I mean, you really think about it, and it's not just us that we're protecting in these situations either. We have
100%.
families to come home to,
Yep.
and it's not fair to them. They're not putting themselves out there like we are. And there is a certain, as funny and uh I don't want to call it, lackadaisical, because that's not what it is, but lighthearted,
Mm-hmm.
how we go into these things. There also has to be that wall, right? That you don't go any further.
Right.
You do have to protect yourself and everyone you're coming home to. But there's, I think we were just on Yajagoff the other day, and they were praising the way that we were going into it with just these prayers to build ourselves up, going into investigations and creating this atmosphere that we're going into where we're safe and confident and comfortable, speaking with going across this bridge to this other side, but doing it respectfully.
Yeah, so that's exactly right, and you jag off, for those that are not aware, as a podcast in the Pittsburgh region. They actually went on an investigation with us within the last, I think it was right around October, right around Halloween.
It was around Halloween.
Yeah, so they were we were on their show, and then they decided to come on an investigation with us, and they were, I think there's a misnomer, right? There's a misnomer that just because we investigate and want to talk to spirits or whatever is in these locations, that we are not believers in God, or a higher power, or some divine presence or something like that, whatever people believe in, right? That's not the case, right? It's very much not the case, right? I am Christian, right? I find strength in religion, in the Christian faith. So I find strength by saying prayers before we go into the investigation. Derrick, you're right there with me to some extent, right? Maybe not as religious, so to speak, as I am.
Well, it's funny, with as long as we've known each other, that's one of those things that it's not openly talked about, right? Where you're just face to face and you're like, what do you believe?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. There's no need for that, right?
Well, that's exactly where I'm going with that. This is one of those things that it can be everybody, anybody. It doesn't matter your background or your faith or your religion. I mean, we were literally just in Gettysburg over the summer when you were like, wait a second, you don't necessarily believe all of the things that I believe. And, I think in that regard, I'm certainly still finding my way with whatever you want to call it. So I don't know what to consider myself. And that's one of those things I don't typically open up about. I don't typically talk about it because I don't know. But I think that this certainly, the investigation side of things certainly helps guide me, right? I mean, like you, that was my upbringing, but there were certain sides of it that pushed me away from it. So then I went super far to the other side where it's, religion is bad, and but then you start seeing these other things, and you start feeling these things, and it's like there's something else there. There has to be. And so what am I don't know. Spiritualist, I guess, is as best as you can put it.
Sure.
Wiccan, no. Catholic, no. But somewhere in between, somewhere on that fine line of there's something there, but I don't know what it is. There's no term for it, but I'm still figuring it out. And I think, sure. But I also don't belong to anything. I'm just kind of out there. I am me. I think we hooked up with a Black Craft Cult, actually. What was it, a couple years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where they reached out to us and they sent us some goodies and stuff. And one of their taglines is "Believe in yourself," and that's right down my alley. You give yourself these powers, so to speak, the confidence, the comfortability. I did it again. I'm gonna come up with my own terminology here.
It's fine. We'll have a glossary at the end. Yeah,
yes,
no doubt. But yeah, to your point, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what you call it. Whatever you find strength in will keep you safe, right? I honestly believe that.
That's yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I believe.
Take that with a grain of salt, because we don't know exactly what we're dealing with at all times.
If you haven't learned that yet,
but just understand that it has fared us very well over the years, right? We all carry crystals. I have,
I think that's one thing that we can all agree on, that we can feel something there.
Yeah, I am not a person that will pick up a crystal off a table and just feel the vibration from it. Now, there's a lot of people that can. I'm not one of those people. I wish I was. Like, I don't.
It would make things easier.
Yeah, it certainly would, right? it would kind of like add to the story arc, if nothing else, right? But I can't do that. I don't feel vibrations off of crystals. I don't feel that I'm getting something out of it that, is going to propel me into the future or what have you. Some people do. Very jealous, right? However, I know that when I have a piece of black kyanite or a piece of obsidian in my pocket or amethyst in my pocket, I feel very safe, right? And I think that's what matters. That's my opinion. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, there's just something to it that adds to it too, and like you're saying, you can feel it, that there's something there, and whatever that something is, that's what matters. Yep. And that's what's important behind it. And it's like you said, it's whatever this is, how whatever you want to consider it. It's treated us well to this point. We've tell everybody, people ask us all the time, like, are you scared to go into these places? Are you worried that you're going to bring something home? And it's like all these different levels of everything that we do, from protecting ourselves to being confident moving into these places. At the end of the day, there's some fear there, I think. But we're also confident that we're not going to cross any lines and keep that respectful barrier and wall up. So we are going into it with the right intentions. And even in fail-safe scenarios, we do sage. We do some minimal cleansings before we go home. Before we leave sites, and it's happened before where to reference Gettysburg again, that's where I kind of had one of my more intense spiritual attacks, I guess you would consider it, when I called the resident out there by name, and she, like, I got super sick, but when we got outside the building, I was able to kind of step back, take a breath, we saged, we cleansed, and it's like, we'll move forward. You're not allowed to come home with me, you're not allowed to follow me. You put up all these barriers and these walls, and nothing came of it. You know what I mean? So if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, so that was the Gettysburg orphanage, right?
Correct. Yep.
First of all, that was one of the the first moments that I was truly scared and caught off guard by something, whenever that happened to you, for those that have not followed us, there was a time we were in the Gettysburg orphanage, in the hole, right? I think it was called.
That's right. You're right. Yeah.
It was like a pit that was dug for the kids that um, they would sit in this pit as like almost like a disciplinary action, right? If they were
Yeah.
misbehaving
If
or
they
what
were
have you,
bad,
if they were bad. So
they
we were
didn't do her
there,
bidding.
and right, and the entire time we were there, we avoided saying the name of this headmistress or the person that ran the orphanage post the Battle of Gettysburg. We avoided saying her name out of respect for the other spirits that could potentially be there. We also didn't want to upset the one that could be there that could be bad.
Do you want me to say her name?
I don't.
You
Go
don't
ahead.
want me to
I
say
don't
it?
care. No, go ahead.
Rosa. It was Rosa Carmichael.
Rosa Carmichael. That's right.
We avoided it like the plague until we were in that hole.
Yeah, and of course Derrick, being the person that dies first in the horror movie, he felt the need to say, right before at the end of the night, he wanted to poke the bear a little bit, which again goes against everything we believe in, but he did try it.
I learned my lesson at that point.
Yes.
If nothing else came of it, I'd learned not to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, so he did say her name and then immediately became violently ill. It was in a black room. I couldn't see him. He was sitting 2 feet from me. I could not see him. He just started dry heaving. And he sounded like he was going to puke. And I just said, Derrick, I don't know what's going on with you. You just need to get out of here. So he did run outside and did end up vomiting on the sidewalk outside. But that one was where I definitely felt like we were unsafe.
Yeah.
Right. And we've never gone back to that technique of poking the bear, so to speak.
Pushing.
Right.
Yes.
I think that was the first and last time we ever did anything like that.
That's right. Yep. I never did that again. And, I'll push barriers to an extent of staying in a place longer than we probably should. But not to the point of come and attack me.
Yeah, that's right. So I know we're getting it's amazing how long we can talk and how fast it goes. So we've got some time here left. I would like to go through some of the evidence that we have acquired over the years, specifically on the Gettysburg topic, Derrick. Since we are talking about it right now, let's stick with that and play one of the best EVPs we have ever captured. And if you want to set this up very quickly, this was actually not during an investigation.
Well, yeah, I mean, that also leads into the whole, you don't have to be actively investigating to come by some of these things. You've learned that when we're just doing walkthroughs of buildings.
Yep.
But yeah, this I was on a trip with my dad. It was I think it was a Father's Day thing, but we went to Gettysburg. He grew up in Philly and he was close enough over there that he's kind of always been into the history side of Gettysburg, and he's worked as a tour guide and everything in the past there, so it's always kind of been there. I went there a lot when I was younger. It wasn't until I was an adult that I kind of drew back into it. And there is something to the town, to the place. So we ended up going there just to spend a weekend looking for the lesser known things, right? Like the off the beaten trail kind of history things. And it was during COVID. So they actually left the park open past sunset. Typically the Battlefield Historical Park is only open from sunrise to sunset, and then they lock the gates basically. That wasn't the case during COVID. So he knew what this paranormal stuff meant to me. He's like, just bring some cameras, some recorders, we'll just toss them up while we're out there, you never know. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to say no to that. So we were out there just one night, and I put up a video camera and a recorder, and we just sat in the field, just kind of took it all in. And there's certainly, I know you know this, Dan, there's a heaviness when you're there, but especially
Yes.
when you're there at night, no one else is around. It's like the place comes alive. Um, we didn't think we got anything, nothing jumped out at us, nothing was, crazy, uh, at least until I started to review this. Now, mind you, the recorder didn't give us anything. There was nothing on the recorder that was abnormal. It was when I was watching the video back that I heard something, and I sent it to Dan. Now, do you want me to just play this here and then we can talk about it? Is that the best practice?
Yeah, I do. Just to set the scene a little bit more, this was on a video camera just aimed across, what was it, the wheat
It
field?
was the field that really ended the Battle of Gettysburg and Pickett's charge.
The
The
copse of trees.
farthest north that the Confederates got at the copse of trees. And
Okay.
that's where we set the camera up and just kind of just let it go and just let it roll.
Yeah, so we're gonna play it as it, came across on the audio first, and then I think Derek, did you
Yeah,
like
let's
isolate a little
just
bit
play
better?
this. Let's play this. It doesn't even need isolated. You
No,
know
no,
that
no,
is
this one's good. This one's good.
so.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, this is one of those recordings where we'll sit at conventions and just to talk to people, to get stories, to share our evidence and things. And this is one of those moments where if somebody comes up to us and they're like, "Hey, I don't believe in ghosts. What do you got?" We're like, first off, we don't care.
First of all,
you
good
do
for
you do
you.
you. But wait,
Uh-huh.
listen to this. And
Mhm.
this is one of those moments that I've seen countless people just have their eyes pop out of their heads and their jaws drop. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable to me.
like
So
you can hear the crickets in the background, but we didn't hear that when we were standing there. We didn't hear that in person, which
yeah,
is just mind blowing.
so for those, obviously, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But what comes across very clearly is like a fife and drum, just like they would have marching into battle in that archaic style of battle that they had during the Civil War. With a drummer in the front, a guy with a flute walking forward with people
Not
following behind.
not even guys, kids, boys.
Kids,
They
that's
put the
true.
youngest there to play the instruments and the music and keep the beat. And for that to come through in such a fashion like that, I didn't have to do anything to it. I pulled the audio from the video camera, and that's kind of been our you know our moment, right, where we can share it with. It's undeniable. Like you can hear the different parts of the marching, it with the fife and the drums, and it's I explain it. I
Yeah,
want somebody to explain it to me because I
yeah.
can't.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And when you shared that with me, I thought it was a toy from your daughter
Right, you didn't even know
that
I
was
was gone.
playing in the background. I had no idea you were there. So, I mean, I think that's one of our most spectacular captures for an EVP, especially over the years, right? But the next one I'd like to go to is the Blennerhassett Hotel. This location, to be quite honest with you, this capture is probably top two thermal captures that we've had over the years. We've had some pretty remarkable EVP capture, or not. I'm sorry, not EVPs, but some thermal captures. We use a FLIR one that is like a little clip-on connection that goes on the bottom of a cell phone and goes through an app. But it is just like a home inspection tool. There's really
I,
nothing ghost hunty
it's
about it.
it's funny you say that. Actually, we had an electrician here at my house, just to trace some of these crazy wires and, you know, the way they used to do houses. We were just trying to map out my house. You know what he used?
I bet
A
that.
Flare 1.
Yeah.
He was going around the walls mapping these things, and I'm like, hey, wait a second, I know that tool.
Yeah, and that's really, I said at the top of the show, that's really what we're finding the most value in are not the equipment necessarily that is meant for ghost hunting, right? Because there's always that what if in the back of your mind when you use something like an Ovilus. We've had some phenomenal captures on Ovilus, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm anti-Ovilus by any means, but there's always that seed of doubt that's always going to remain, right?
Sure.
To say, did this device, because it was marketed as a ghost hunting piece of equipment, did something that is inside that device listen to what I was saying and then provide a response that I would expect? Right? I don't know. I'm not gonna say that that's the case, but there's always that little seed of a doubt
Sure.
in stuff that is just specifically for ghost hunting.
Well, you know, there also has to be, especially with our mindset going into these things. You know, you have to keep a healthy perspective on these things. But to your point with something like this, where it's used, these tools are used for something else. You
Yep.
know, it's not a ghost tool. It's not marketed on Ghost Stop or you know, I would actually prefer to go with Relatively Paranormal because they are kind of our go-to
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with tools and devices anymore. But it's not marketed that way. It's not made for that. You know,
Mhm.
but regardless, I digress as we
Yes.
always do.
Yeah. So just because we are getting short on time, we've got about 10 minutes to go here. This thermal image, walk us through what we're looking at here, Derek.
Yeah, so the Blennerhassett Hotel. This is one of the floors where people have seen two separate entities. One with a man with a bowler cap, which we believe we actually encountered there in one of the rooms, and then there is actually a female shadow that has been seen right outside this room, walking this hall, even inside that room there, and you can kind of see the outline of a door. Kind of to the
Is it?
left there, almost purple pink.
Yep. There's
Um,
a table with a skirting around it on
yep,
the
you
left
can
hand
you can
side.
make out all those details, and inside
Mhm.
that room, it's a ballroom. She's been seen there, and so we were just walking here. We actually took our spirit box and just walked because there's so much ground to cover in these buildings, especially a hotel that has so many
Yeah.
stories, so much
Yeah.
square footage, an active live hotel. You know, they have guests. Um, and we were walking just seeing what we would catch, and we snapped a few pictures and then just kept walking. And when we took this, we weren't thinking much about it until our review process, when we actually love to share these things like on social media. And I don't recall if Dan, who did the outline that I'm going to share here next, but you had sent it to somebody and asked them what they saw, and
Mhm.
they sent you an outline of it, and as soon as you see the outline, it's like, wait a second, are these two things together?
Holy poop, right? It's that oh my gosh moment.
Right.
So if you can go to
So
that one with the figures outlined.
you take those two stories and you combine them, and you can see here the man in the hat and the woman with the long dress. I mean, it's uncanny, really.
So can you go back to the original one now?
Yeah.
Now that people have seen the outline. Now obviously it was zoomed in a little bit on the
Correct.
outline. But you can see those figures standing at the end of the hallway. It's near that like the bright yellow area. That bright yellow signature is coming off of. That's an like a room, like a divider wall. Before you go into like guest rooms, right? So that heat signature is coming off of the wall, which is a little bit warmer
Correct.
than the rest. So those figures are standing in front of that at the end of the hallway. And all of this stuff is on our website, ironcityparanormal.org. We share all of our stuff on socials as well. But just so just for the sake of this episode, I wanted to touch on this because I think these are those moments again that have kept us coming back over the years, right? I mean, this is very much, what has made us not only continue to spend money, but also continue to spend our time away from our families, for the ultimate purpose of, trying to explain the unexplainable, so to speak. Right? I don't really know a way of putting that other than that.
there's no better way.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we're not going to have much time to go over any other stuff that we have. So we have many, future episodes. We're going to be on every Thursday at 9 o'clock on the UNX network. So this will be the standing time for the other side of the bridge. So we're very excited to get into, a host of many different ideas, concepts, have guests on to talk about, would like to get some owners from local spots, that we've investigated, get them some airtime as far as, putting faces to names on some of these phenomenal locations that are keeping the history alive at some of these very well-known Pittsburgh locations, but also lesser known locations around Pittsburgh. Right.
And I think that's what we've focused on more than anything that means more to us. I think that a lot of those have hit home a lot more than the well-known ones.
They have, yeah. And because of that community that we're exposed to, right? The people that we interact with, not only in the paranormal community, but like the antique shop in Wexford, Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh, Wexford Antiques. Just phenomenal people that are there, that we were able to interact with, to get to know them on a deeper level than what would have been able to do just by being patrons of their business. Right. After Hours Tattoos in Mars, Pennsylvania, Social Club Barbershop in Mars, Pennsylvania. Through the investigations, we've got to know the people as much as the buildings, as much as the locations, right? Those are the people that we would like to highlight, and we're going to be using this forum to not only talk about our upcoming investigations, not only talk about the evidence that we get when conducting these investigations, but also be able to spotlight these locations, these owners, the good things that they're doing, what are their beliefs in it, what are their experiences, but then also, what did they get out of the evidence that we gathered as well. Right.
Yeah, and I think like you've touched on, we have you've already lined up a few of these business owners, so we can bring them on, talk about their business, what they're doing in the community, show the evidence, talk about the investigation that we did with them, and like you said, see how that impacted them and moving forward with their business, knowing that something is there.
Yep. Yeah. So on the next episode, would like to bring the remainder of Iron City Paranormal, Sabrina and Aaron. We would like to bring them on, have some time with them to go over what they bring to the table, what their experience has been with us at Iron City, and just, share their beliefs, their approaches, what they've gotten out of the investigations, the whole 9 yards, right? We have so much we can talk about. And that's why, again, we've been talking about doing this for so long.
Right. And we have so much to talk about.
We really do. And it's incredible how hard it is to squeeze it into an hour. Right. Because again, we can just keep going. But we do have some really exciting things coming up this year. We have some return locations that we are going back to, that we have had a profound impact on us over the years, that we will get into on future episodes. Kind of what is the history behind these locations? What was our first go around? What did it look like? But then also, what does the second time back, what did it have in store for us as well? But then we also have some exciting things going on as far as we are working with a historical society in Waterford, Pennsylvania, to actually to work on putting a book together. If you want to go into that, Derrick.
Yeah, we're actually working on basically a haunted town. From our experience outside of a place like Gettysburg, this has probably been the most widely spread paranormal phenomena across a town that has been literally paved in bone. We've investigated 2 locations there before. We're going to be doing them again, and we're trying to get into a few other locations that have some more history tied to the town, further back even, when it was, you know, a dirt road, prior to the cemeteries being dug up, spread out, and have there's literally stories that we're digging up of kids running down the streets, picking up old jewelry, finding chunks of bone in the street, that they had no idea was there. But you tell me some other reason that a town is going to be haunted than that.
So
I can't think of one.
pretty freaking cool town to write on. So a lot of good things coming from Iron City, with this being first and foremost, right? The Other Side of the Bridge. Like I said, tune in every Thursday night at 9:00 on the UNX network. Where to find us, right? IronCityParanormal.org. We post everything there. We post our full write-ups, whatever, on our socials, all Iron City Paranormal, all one word. And if you want to just continue to follow along, you know, hit that subscribe button to the podcast, and follow us along in our journey. Because we're just some normal people talking to empty rooms and having them talk back to us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for tuning in.
Thank you.
We look forward to continuing on this journey with you as we go forward. And this is Iron City Paranormal with The Other Side of the Bridge. Thank you very much.